It's quite clear that every season, there are some teams that are favored to win the championship. The anticipation of them winning isn't a huge surprise, as they either have stacked rosters or they've already won a championship in recent years. But in this video, I want to take a look at some teams that could be considered as, quote, sleeper contenders. These teams aren't necessarily viewed as bad teams, they're quite good, honestly, but they aren't seen as contenders by the general media either. But I think if the pieces fall in the right place for these guys, they could make a run for it. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and without further ado, let's talk about 4 sleeper contenders. The Cleveland Cavaliers. Now you might think, the Cavs? Really? But don't forget, for a decent chunk of last season, the Cavs actually held the top seed of the Eastern Conference. They did drop off near the end due to injuries, but when they were healthy, they looked like the best team of the conference. Then over the offseason, they added Donovan Mitchell to the team. At a glance, this trade might look a bit iffy for the Cavs, giving up 3 first-round picks and some young players like Colin Sexton, which seems like an absurd amount to get Mitchell. However, the Cavs last year had their best stretch of games without Sexton playing. Plus, Mitchell is also still pretty young himself, and is already a bona fide all-star. Adding him onto a roster that already looked very good before could be the key to pushing the Cavs back to the top. The biggest problem with the Cavs last year was that Darius Garland sorely needed some help in the backcourt. According to Synergy Sports, Mitchell ranked in the 80th percentile in scoring off a pick and roll, and scoring in isolation, which will give a huge boost to their offense. Last season, the Jazz players were first in the NBA in pick-and-roll scoring as the ball handler, largely due to Mitchell. The Cavs, on the other hand, were 21st last season, with their ball handlers scoring just 0.85 points per possession off of pick-and-rolls. You could imagine how much they'll improve in this area solely by adding Mitchell. Now, there were concerns on whether or not Mitchell and Garland could play together, considering they're both like 6'1" and questionable defenders. However, offensively, Mitchell is a natural scorer, while Garland is more of a facilitator. So in terms of skill sets, they complement each other quite well. Also, the Cavs were already very good on defense, ranking as the 7th best defensive team in the past season. Their issues were on offense, as they ranked 20th, so Mitchell would for sure give them a huge boost. Plus, Jarrett Allen is one of the league's best rim runners and pick-and-roll finishers, a great match for him to play with. Allen's incredible development has been key to the Cavs' success, and hopefully he'll keep improving. The Cavs are poised to make some noise in the 2023 season. The Denver Nuggets. This is an interesting one. For the past few seasons, Nikola Jokic has transcended beyond what we thought he was capable of, winning back-to-back MVPs, recording some of the greatest individual seasons we've ever seen. Despite having the best years of his life, the Nuggets unfortunately kept getting bounced early in the playoffs. That's what happens when your second and third best players are injured, and you gotta rely on guys like Monte Morris and Will Barton to fill in the gaps. Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. have been out for a long time, but when this trio played together, they registered one of the greatest 3-man lineups in the league. According to NBA.com's lineup stats, in the 2020-21 season, when Jokic, Murray, and Porter were on the floor together, they had a whopping plus 14.9 net rating, and a ridiculous true shooting percentage of 63.2%. In that season, their offensive rating of 124 was the best among any trio in the NBA. Of course, the biggest question with this team has always been health. Porter's back problems have been well documented. He's had 3 back surgeries in 4 years and also signed a massive 5-year, $180 million deal after a great season in 2021. If he doesn't recover and play like he used to, this might be the worst contract in NBA history. Murray is coming off of an ACL tear himself, so the Nuggets' hopes of contending now and in the future will depend on how these two recover. That's why they're a sleeper pick. If they come back 100%, the Nuggets will be in the conversation for winning the championship. If they struggle to come back and don't look anywhere close to their former selves, then they'll be stuck in the same spot they've been in the past few years. A mid-tier playoff team with a first or second round exit. Of course, there are some other unspoken issues with this team as well. Namely, defense. Even with Murray and Porter coming back, they still lack any prominent defenders, hence why they've always had a middle-of-the-pack defensive rating. Another issue is the Nuggets owner's unwillingness to go into the luxury tax, as explained here by John Hollinger of The Athletic. Quote, lingering in the background, of course, is whether the historically frugal Nuggets will break into the luxury tax. The Nuggets already made the Caldwell-Pope trade and gave up a future first to Oklahoma City in return for the 30th pick in June, in what was basically a stealth salary dump to drop JaMychal Green's salary. Helpful suggestion: if you're not going to pay the tax while the greatest player this franchise will ever have is on the roster and in his prime, just sell the team. Ouch, it's a stern but fair analysis. If the Nuggets truly want to contend like their peers, they'll need to be more willing to spend. The Minnesota Timberwolves. The Rudy Gobert trade was met with a ton of criticism. Not only did the Wolves give up most of their useful role players, but also 3 unprotected first-rounders. It was quite the risky move for a team that was just scratching the surface of the playoffs, in large part because of the role players they traded away. However, the Wolves knew they can't be wasting away the best years of Cat's prime, and so when the offer presented itself, they had to pull the trigger. For Cat's entire tenure on the Wolves, they were always a mediocre or horrendous defensive team, because he never had a frontcourt partner who could cover his biggest weakness. Now, he does. We all know of Gobert's defensive expertise, but it's not just his defense that matters. For a long time, the Wolves were missing another frontcourt player who was actually a threat to score. Say what you want about Gobert's limited offensive ability, but he does 2 things very well on offense: rolling to the rim and getting offensive rebounds for second-chance points. His presence alone allows D'Angelo Russell and Anthony Edwards to flourish in the pick and roll, opening up more space on the perimeter for them to create, and having an additional threat to throw the ball to in the paint. The Utah Jazz just came off a season having the #1 ranked offense in the NBA, mostly due to the strength of Gobert's gravity, pulling defenders into the paint and out of the perimeter. This will be phenomenal for the Wolves' young guards to get some breathing room and get some open shots. Overall, the Wolves essentially mortgaged their entire future for a chance to compete right now. And you know what? I don't blame them for this. It might be a mistake, a huge one if things don't work out, but Gobert is under contract until 2026. They've got time to make it work. It's better than swerving around in no man's land for the next few years. Now having the best frontcourt duo in the league along with a rapidly improving backcourt, don't sleep on this team. The Wolves are getting spooky for real this time. The Los Angeles Lakers. Okay. So why are the Lakers on here? How can a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis be considered a sleeper? Well, just take a look at how poorly they've been in the past few seasons. Injuries aside, this team has a lot of talent, but no chemistry. Even with LeBron having arguably the best statistical season of his career, the Lakers fumbled. Anthony Davis basically sits out every other game with some random injury, and Westbrook is still showing that he can't change the way he plays, no matter how much worse he's gotten. That's what we learned last year. However, I find it hard to believe that any team led by LeBron would have 2 horrible seasons in a row. That's the exact reason why I think the Lakers are sleepers. I never doubt a team with LeBron. If everything clicks and they develop that camaraderie they were missing before, they'll be dangerous. Also, they got a new coach, which, I don't think Frank Vogel was the issue in the first place, considering he's the same guy who coached them to the title in 2020. But this is a welcome change. The team needs a different look, and perhaps a new coach could inject some motivation into this squad. The biggest question, aside from health, is Russell Westbrook. We're all aware that he had arguably the worst season of his career, and basically everybody was fed up with how poorly he was playing. The Ringer released a nice article about it called "Can Russell Westbrook Change?" Here's an excerpt from it. He's filtered out the negatives, accentuating the positive. On the floor, that tunnel vision has been a double-edged sword, powering 9 All-Star appearances and an MVP, but also blinding him to his flaws. That sums up his first season in Los Angeles quite well. Westbrook still thinks he's a superstar, and that's why he tries to play like one. He's always been resistant to adapt, resistant to change, regardless of who's coaching him. Of course, the problem now is he's not as fast, or athletic, or as conditioned as he once was, so he keeps forcing shots and making plays that he's no longer good at. You know, at least he isn't short on confidence. In an interview, he told ESPN that in this coming season, he's going to do whatever it takes to help the team win. But he also said that last season too, yet he still didn't do it. We'll just have to wait and see what really happens. But don't count out the Lakers just yet. Anyway, that's all folks. Those are 4 NBA teams that are, in my opinion, sleeper contenders. They got a real chance to win the title if things fall in the right place. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Which other teams do you think can be considered as sleeper contenders? Teams that the media has already counted out, but can actually make a run for the title. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and of course, as always, I'll see you next time. Peace.